The 911 call came at 4:27 a.m. on a chilly October morning in Beverly Hills. A car had plunged 80 feet off a hairpin turn on Angeles Crest Highway, and the lifeless body inside would soon shake the world of LA's most powerful elite. When the victim was identified as Dr. Alexandra Chambers, a brilliant young neurosurgeon who'd fallen for one of the city's richest and most married men, the secret she died to protect threatened to unravel Beverly Hills itself. If you crave the shocking, forbidden truths behind closed doors in America's most exclusive corners, subscribe and hit the bell, because this story will make you rethink everything you know about power, love, and murder. But let's go back to where it all began. Alexandra Chambers had always been exceptional. The daughter of a teacher and a nurse from Columbus, Ohio, she'd earned her spot as a Johns Hopkins graduate before winning one of only 4 coveted neurosurgery residency slots at the Beverly Hills Medical Center. She was 28, beautiful, ambitious, outworking everyone, but privately drowning in $80,000 of student debt and the crushing pressure to prove herself in the cutthroat world of LA medicine. Her life changed forever the day James Morgan walked into her exam room. He was 58, a silver-haired real estate kingpin whose name was engraved on half of LA's luxury towers. He was married to Sharon Morgan, the charity queen of Beverly Hills. On paper, their marriage was a social empire, a facade that masked years of cold silence and mutual betrayal. James had been diagnosed with a brain tumor, a small, slow-growing mass that required careful monitoring rather than immediate surgery. Alexandra's clear, confident explanations immediately set her apart from every other doctor. He became her patient, but their hospital sessions soon spilled into chants, meetings in meditation gardens, and candlelit dinners in $5,000 a night penthouses. It started with gifts, designer watches, diamond earrings, the mysterious overnight vanishing of her student loan balance. Whispers followed. Alexandra dismissed them, pulled by James's devotion and the once-in-a-lifetime offer of a prestigious Oxford Research Fellowship he promised to arrange. She was falling hard, and he was all in, until Sharon Morgan's suspicions mounted. Unknown to Alex, Sharon had hired a private investigator. The PI's photos of candlelit dinners and clandestine embraces landed on Sharon's breakfast table, and that morning, the rules of war changed. Sharon gave James a choice, end it all now, or lose everything in a divorce. But James chose a third option, one neither woman could predict. On October 12, 2023, Alexandra received a text from James. "Meet me at the Overlook. We need to talk." Alone, her BMW vanished into the pre-dawn mist. Hours later, police found her car crumpled at the bottom of a ravine, a scene that looked like a tragic accident, but the evidence would turn the case into a media firestorm. Detectives soon found irregular brake lines, and Alexandra's best friend, her roommate Jenna, revealed a series of terrified texts Alexandra had sent. James was acting strange, paranoid, desperate. Security footage and cell tower data placed James at home during the crash, but digital forensics unearthed his deleted searches, undetectable ways to sabotage brake systems, how to fake a car accident, make it look like an accident. The biggest break came with a cash withdrawal trail traced to Ray Delgado, a mechanic known for his shady connections. Under intense questioning, Delgado confessed. James had paid him to alter Alexandra's brakes for $40,000 cash. The DA called it the perfect murder, almost. James was arrested at a charity gala as he announced a $10 million donation, the handcuffs flashing in the ballroom lights. Every click of a camera marked the end of Beverly Hills' most guarded secret. At trial, the devastating story unfolded. Alexandra, once hailed as medicine's rising star, reduced to tabloid fodder. Sharon, left to choose between public humiliation and private agony. James facing charges of premeditated murder, his empire, and his mask, shattered on national TV. But her death would be more than a tragic twist in a billionaire's midlife crisis. It exposed a world where money covers secrets, and love can be the deadliest luxury of all. Don't forget to subscribe, because next, we'll reveal what detectives found in Alexandra's journal, and why her story became a rallying cry for LA's powerful women determined never to be silenced again. But let's go back to those final days, when Alexandra thought she could outrun not just heartbreak, but destiny itself. The atmosphere in Beverly Hills had shifted. The golden light on palm trees now felt colder, more clinical, as police stormed the glass-walled mansion on Monte Vista Drive. Inside the kitchen, Sharon Morgan barely flinched as the detectives announced they'd come for her husband. The city's most notorious real estate tycoon was being hunted for murder, and the evidence started with Alexandra Chambers' shattered life. 3 weeks earlier, Alexandra had been living on adrenaline and hope. She was working 30-hour shifts in the neurosurgery ward, her phone always buzzing, sometimes with her best friend Jenna's memes, more often with James Morgan's "I miss you" texts sent from hidden bathrooms and country club fundraisers. Each message burned brighter than the last, erasing common sense, caution, and the lines Alexandra never thought she'd cross. She should have seen the signs. The cash envelopes for emergencies, the black Mercedes that appeared outside her apartment every time she left, the way Sharon's gaze lingered at charity dinners, coldly dissecting Alexandra from across the ballroom. James insisted Sharon only cared about their money. "You and I have something real. I'd give it all up for you," he'd whisper, and Alexandra desperately wanted to believe him. But shadows darkened everything. Sharon's private investigator snapped hundreds of clandestine photos. Every dinner, every stolen kiss, every trembling smile. Sharon had the PI trail Alexandra all the way to her shift at County General, even sending anonymous texts. "You should be careful who you trust. Not everyone survives secrets in this town." Despite this, Alexandra and James were intoxicated by the thrill. On the edge of the rooftop bar at Sunset Tower, the glowing city behind them, James handed Alexandra a set of keys, a tiny silver Eiffel Tower. "My Paris apartment," he murmured. "No one can touch us there." Reality vanished in the promise. Jenna pleaded with Alexandra to end it. "He's not like us. His wife's a barracuda. You don't owe him a future. He's the reason you wake up anxious and crying." But Alexandra's longing for escape, for someone who claimed he'd stake everything on her, was stronger than fear. Even as she woke to a strange car idling across from her apartment at midnight, even as her tires twice ended up slashed. One night, months of tension erupted. Sharon confronted James with a folder of evidence, her voice glacial. "You end this, or I will. There's no room for both of us." James stormed from the house, calling Alexandra with a hoarse, trembling urgency. "Meet me at the Overlook. I need you now." Alexandra went, heart pounding, a decision that would seal her fate. That night, traffic cameras caught Alexandra's BMW racing up the winding Angeles Crest Highway just past 4 a.m. She was alone. The air was heavy with coastal fog, the city below neon and indifferent. Within minutes, the car's brake lights flashed wildly, then vanished as her BMW careened off the ridge, somersaulting into a ravine. By dawn, news vans crowded the canyon. To the world, it looked like a tragic accident. Another promising young talent lost to speed, exhaustion, and the Beverly Hills grind. But detectives of the crash scene found anomalies. The brake fluid puddle, the slice through the lines, a footprint in the mud where it shouldn't have been. Days blurred. At Alexandra's funeral, hospital colleagues wept openly, while Sharon Morgan sat in the back, dark glasses hiding everything. James never showed up, later claiming illness. Social media boiled. Hashtag Justice for Alexandra trended citywide, and rumors of an affair ignited a media frenzy. Detectives zeroed in on Alexandra's final week. Her phone revealed 12 never-sent voicemails, each a raw confession of terror, guilt, and desperate love. She worried James was being watched. She worried Sharon was planning something. Her last recorded message, never delivered. "If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. Please find out what really happened." Pressure mounted. Investigators pulled security footage. James was at home when Alexandra crashed, but his phone showed a call to Ray Delgado, the mechanic with a record for insurance fraud, 2 days before the accident. Delgado, after hours in an interrogation room, admitted James had slipped him $40,000 to fix Alexandra's brakes, but pleaded he hadn't expected real harm. Jenna, now haunted by Alexandra's unread messages, brought detectives a battered leather journal. Inside, scrawled between schedules and shift notes, was Alexandra's terror. "I feel like I'm suffocating. He loves me, but I'm disposable. Sharon warned me I would regret everything." James Morgan's perfect life fractured instantly. Detectives arrested him as he stood beside Sharon at a televised charity dinner, their marriage's ruin exposed by blinding flashes. The most powerful couple in Beverly Hills now found themselves trapped in their own scandal. A secret turned public reckoning. But it was only the beginning. The investigation would reveal a widening web of lies, money, sabotage, and betrayal, showing the lengths the world's richest will go to keep their secrets safe, even if it means someone else pays the highest price. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you are, because next, what Alexandra confided to a fellow surgeon in her final hours will shatter what you think you know about the Morgans, and set the stage for the most sensational trial Beverly Hills has ever witnessed. But let's go back to Alexandra's last day at the hospital, a day that started like any other, but before midnight, left the city forever changed. The morning after James Morgan's arrest, Beverly Hills was a city exposed, its sunshine fractured by news choppers, the polished facades of its mansions now backdrops to a scandal so vast, even the city's most jaded residents were rattled. Amid the chaos, the Morgan estate on Monte Vista Drive became the epicenter. Security gates rattled with the weight of camera crews and shouting reporters. Sharon Morgan, veiled behind sunglasses and $1,000 grief, kept the doors locked, while inside, the billionaire's two sons prowled through their childhood home, silent and scared, worlds away from Switzerland's boarding school safety. Up the street, in a cramped police interview room, James Morgan sat with hands bound and ego bruised. Only hours before, he was the toast of a Beverly Hills gala. Now, sleep-deprived, stubbled, and desperate, he clung to his polished defense. I didn't touch her. I loved her. We were planning Paris, not funerals. His attorney whispered strategy. But behind the two-way glass, detectives were determined. L.A. had seen rich men walk before. This time, it would be different. The evidence, however, was a maze of shadow and light. Yes, there was the $40,000 withdrawn just before Alexandra's fatal crash, a withdrawal that James claimed was for a business deal, completely above board. Yes, there was a phone call from his private number to Ray Delgado, the mechanic with a suspicious record. James insisted it was about his son's Maserati. Ray's the only guy who can fix those imports fast. But the detectives saw measured panic in every answer, a crack in James's easy confidence. Meanwhile, Alexandra's life was being dissected on every news outlet, every social media feed. In medical forums, colleagues posted tributes, her brilliant hands, her sharp, fearless advocacy for brain injury patients, her role as the chief resident who never let interns fail. In less forgiving corners, tabloids made her an archetype, the hungry outsider, the seductress, the naive woman who didn't know when to let go. Hospital HR leaked nothing, but doctors and nurses whispered about her exhaustion, her moments pacing callroom halls at dawn, the carved worry in her voice. She confided in a few. He says he'll leave her. I want to believe him. But why do I always feel watched? She bought pepper spray. She'd changed the lock on her apartment. But she always took James's calls. Jenna, Alexandra's roommate and closest friend, struggled beneath the weight of survivor's guilt. She had tried to intervene. In her phone were 100 texts, unsent confessions, and frantic voicemails. Alex, you don't need him. You're enough. Please, just come home tonight. She handed all of these, including Alexandra's battered journal, to Detective Laura Hargrove, a one-time prodigy herself, now reduced to parsing trauma for motive. The entries were erratic, desperate. He gets furious if I say I'm busy. Sometimes, after he leaves, I feel sick. Sharon called again, told me I'm just another stain on their marriage. I want out, I need out. The closer the investigators read, the less Alexandra's death looked like a simple crime of passion. Back in the luxury wing of the Beverly Hills precinct, Sharon Morgan played her part to perfection. Tanned, immaculate, cloaked in careful mourning, Sharon claimed utter ignorance. If my husband betrayed me, don't you think I'd be the last to know? But a subpoenaed phone backed up a different story. She'd hired a private investigator months before, then ramped up her own surveillance. There were emails, cold, devastating. You will regret this, Alex. My family survives worse than you. On the record, she denied threats. Minutes later, off tape, she spat to her attorney. She should have known this wasn't a fairy tale. In the DA's war room, a murder board grew crowded. Text messages, bank transfers, Ray Delgado sheets covered in grease and fear, court filings threatening retraining orders, security footage of Alexandra's car, And above all, the note Alexandra had left, half-burned, in her lab coat. If I die, it was never an accident. Look at them. Ray Delgado proved less resilient than imagined. When confronted with the threat of multiple felony charges, he wept. Morgan said, "Just scare her. Make the brakes noisy or something." I didn't know she'd end up dead. He paid cash, man. I'd do anything for that kind of money. 6 hours in the box with Hargrove, and Ray agreed to testify at trial. As the DA's office prepared its indictment, the city's press devoured every leak. Alexandra's love letters, James's opulent gifts, Sharon's steely vows of vengeance. Students gathered at the hospital, lighting candles. Protesters outside the courthouse demanded justice. Beverly Hills was, for once, not just a playground, but a battleground. With trial looming, the Morgan sons returned home beneath the pall of private security, faces blank, accounts deleted, family reputation in shreds. Sharon fired house staff, hired new lawyers, and issued a statement. "Our family grieves deeply for Dr. Chambers. We await the truth in court." Jenna, isolated but unbowed, told a single reporter, "Alex gave everything, her trust, her future. She deserved to be loved, not destroyed." The defense would argue Alexandra was unstable, reckless, perhaps even self-destructive. They'd hire expert witnesses on her stress, point to redacted therapy notes, belittle every warning she'd ever given. But the prosecution had more than just circumstantial evidence. Forensic proof of sabotage, financial trails, confessions of conspiracy, and the words Alexandra herself had scrawled in her final days. One of them did this. Jenna told the court of public opinion. All that money, all that power, and not an ounce of courage to stop. The world would have to wait for a jury to decide whose story would finally break Beverly Hills' spell of impunity. But for now, the house on Monte Vista sat silent, its secrets ripped open, its rulers dethroned, Alexandra's voice echoing where trust once lived. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now, because next, the courtroom erupts, hidden deals unravel, and a truth more shocking than murder will stain the city's golden streets forever. But let's go back to when Alexandra's encrypted backup surfaced, and the secret that even the Morgans didn't see coming began to make its fatal approach. The courthouse was ringed with cameras, the late summer heat sparring with the ozone shriek of news helicopters as the People versus James Morgan began. There were lines outside before sunrise, true crime junkies with coffee, tabloids angling for the first shot of Sharon Morgan, protesters waving "Justice for Alexandra" banners, and, in the center of it all, Jenna, face drawn, clutching Alexandra's photo, refusing to leave her friend's story to strangers. For days, Beverly Hills had suffocated under the storm. Now, the entire city seemed to hold its breath. James Morgan was escorted in through the back, flanked by bodyguards and a legal team worthy of a primetime miniseries. His usual precision, bespoke suit, silver hair immaculate, was offset by trembling hands and dark circles under his eyes. Sharon hovered near the door, stoic in widow black, her sons on either side. But inside, the courtroom was set for war. The prosecution's opening volley was methodical, relentless. They cast James as a powerful man consumed by obsession, willing to sacrifice anything, his fortune, his marriage, even the life of Alexandra Chambers, to maintain his secret. They tracked the affair from flirtation to the shadowy Paris promises, the slashed brakes, the cash withdrawal trace to Ray Delgado. Alexandra's journal was projected onto courtroom screens, entries that shifted from hope to fear, rage to palpable dread. The jury listened to her voice, her last, unsent messages to Jenna, including the chilling declaration, "If something happens to me, make them look at James. He can hurt people and never get caught." Jenna took the stand first. Her testimony stretched across hours, sometimes halting, sometimes trembling with anger. She described Alexandra's descent into panic, the scars of love spun into control, the bruising toll of each anonymous threat, and Sharon's words echoing in the dark. Alex was terrified. Every time he promised her the world, she got another warning, another hang-up call. The defense tried to undermine her, suggesting that Jenna was motivated by jealousy, or trauma, or even a secret crush. But Jenna's pain was unvarnished, her truth sharp enough to cut through the noise. The DA's strategy was clear. Combine irrefutable forensic evidence with Alexandra's own words, building an airtight timeline with digital records, bank statements, and Delgado's confession. Ray Delgado held the courtroom in rapt silence. He recalled the day James delivered the cash, wrapped in a manila envelope. He said, "Just scare her. She'll respect me again. But the money, I've never seen that kind of money. I let greed decide, and I'll regret it forever." Tears streamed down his face as he admitted to altering the brakes, never checking to see if Alexandra would survive the lesson. Sharon Morgan was next, as much a performer as a witness. Her testimony rehearsed, her answers clipped. She denied any prior knowledge of her husband's plot, painting herself as yet another victim of James's duplicity. But under cross-examination, the DA produced the emails, threats, manipulations, evidence of surveillance. "You will regret this, Alex. My family survives worse than you." For a moment, Sharon's composure broke. The mask slipped, just for a heartbeat, and the courtroom saw raw hatred burn through grief. The defense team fought back hard, bringing in experts on Alexandra's fragile state of mind, mental health notes, therapy transcripts, even anonymous posts from social media characterizing her as volatile, unstable, desperate for attention. They painted James as a man driven to madness by an extortionist lover, his judgment clouded by fear, not malice. They questioned every chain of evidence. Was the brake cut deliberate or mechanical error? Could the $40,000 have been a bribe at all? But the forensic pathologist's cool testimony erased doubt. She mapped the sabotage. The brake line cut exactly where an accident would look most innocent. The deposit of a rare mineral oil only carried by high-end mechanics like Delgado. The crash wasn't fate, it was a blueprint for murder. As the days wore on, the pressure inside the courtroom became unbearable. Reporters flooded social media, their updates painting an ever-darkening picture of the Morgans' fractured empire. Jenna spent breaks speaking with Alexandra's former patients, who gathered outside the courthouse to hold a silent vigil each day. Sharon's sons became ghosts in their own home, tabloid targets, their father's crimes eclipsing every memory of their family's past. The most electrifying moment came with Alexandra's final audio message. Discovering the encrypted cloud backup, Jenna managed to recover. The hushed courtroom listened as Alexandra, voice shaking but unbowed, addressed her fears. "If you're hearing this, I didn't run away. I was scared. James said I was everything, but he needed to control everything, too. Don't let him say I was crazy. I just wanted to love and be free." As the trial wound toward its close, the city waited for the moment of reckoning. The jury looked haunted by what they'd heard and seen, a web of money, romance, violence, and the raw cost of secrets in a world where luxury can buy everything except forgiveness. If you're not yet subscribed, do it now, because in the next episode, the verdict lands, hidden deals unravel, and the final fate of James, Sharon, and Alexandra will rewrite the rules of justice for Beverly Hills' most indestructible. But let's go back to the tense hours in jury deliberations, the moment the whole city feared and the world would never forget. The city held its breath as the jury filed back into the hushed Los Angeles Superior Court. Outside, a barricade of reporters and protesters blurred beneath the unflinching sun. Inside, every camera lens was fixed on James Morgan, whose silver hair looked ghostly in the fluorescent light. Sharon Morgan's fingers twisted a silk handkerchief until the fabric groaned. At the prosecution's table, Jenna sat wedged between two victim advocates, Alexandra Chambers' photo pressed to her chest. The trial had taken 3 excruciating weeks. Evidence spilled out in a fever dream. Ray Delgado's broken confession, financial trails stained with hush money, the string of encrypted messages and voice notes where Alexandra, exhausted and frightened, scribbled, "If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident. Don't let them call me crazy." The city's tabloid industry fed like sharks, memes, op-eds, breathless TV anchors, and TikTok. Legal experts diced every new detail before the courtroom even adjourned for the day. It seemed, for once, that power, money, and legacy no longer guaranteed invisibility. As the judge called the court to order, the foreperson, a paralegal in her early 30s, stood. Her voice trembled but carried across the auditorium. "We, the jury, find the defendant, James Edward Morgan, guilty of murder in the first degree, with special circumstances of premeditation and conspiracy. Sharon made a sharp, involuntary sound, a gasp or a whispered curse, and lowered her head into her hands. Gasps from a gallery were quickly stifled by the bailiffs. James Morgan flinched, his bravado drained in an instant, the air snatched from his lungs. The sentencing phase was brutal. Prosecutors pressed for the maximum, life without parole. The DA, voice steady, described a man who weaponized luxury, hiring and discarding people as easily as expensive suits. Alexandra was not a mistake to be erased, she said, but a healer, a daughter, a woman who believed love might be her rescue, until the very end. The defense clawed for sympathy, painting James as a man in the throes of emotional crisis, but no one in the courtroom seemed moved. Alexandra's mother spoke, trembling but resolute. My daughter saved lives. She wanted only to feel safe, to be seen. Beverly Hills, you let a predator hide behind closed doors, and called it normal. When the sentence, life without parole, was read, Sharon did not stand. She let her sons lead her wordlessly from the courtroom, reporters fanning out in her wake. James's mask crumpled. For the first time, he looked small, a man outnumbered, outmaneuvered, shunned by the city he once ruled. But the trial shockwaves would not end there. As journalists raced to file stories, a second wave began, a movement, ignited by Alexandra's friends and colleagues. Patients she'd saved spoke to the media. She was the only neurologist who listened. Other doctors organized working groups on power abuse and gender violence in medicine. Beverly Hills elite, wary and unsteady, closed ranks, but whispers kept spreading. Who else had skeletons hidden by money and silence? What knew Alexandra might step forward with scars of her own? Jenna, at the courthouse steps, read Alexandra's final recorded message to assembled cameras and strangers. If you're hearing this, know I fought. Know I love deeply. Don't let my story be twisted. Love shouldn't kill. A year later, the city has not forgotten. Alexandra's former hospital named its trauma wing in her honor. A scholarship for women in medicine carries her name, funded by anonymous donors and small gifts from across Los Angeles. Nurses, residents, families who know what it is to fight for a chance. The Morgan Mansion sits empty and unsold, its iron gates rusting a little more each season. In Beverly Hills, where secrets used to buy silence, the cost of truth is now paid in full. Alexandra's memory lingers far beyond scandal. She is the voice at the edge of the world's brightest places, a warning and a beacon. And in the end, it was her refusal to be erased that toppled a dynasty and showed that, sometimes, even in the richest shadows, justice finds its way home. If you haven't already, subscribe and stay tuned. The next story? You won't believe whose secret is about to break, and what it will cost the city that never imagined it could be haunted. But let's go back, one more time, to the moment Alexandra risked everything for love and began the fight that would change Beverly Hills forever.